I admit I was more than a bit shaken by what I had seen in Frostbound, the countless horrors and secrets laid out before me, as well as the truth of my own soul. Nevertheless, I pressed on. A Z captain must never forget why he's here. I headed towards Irem to gain the secrets of my comrades. I had hoped to gain stories so that they might have their accursed mutter salt for their meals. Sometimes I think myself too obliging to these people who have the secrets of the Z that I seek to find. Irem was a strange place. It was as if dreams intersected with reality. The many pillars of the city and the petals of ancient roses were on the wind. It was like walking into an unusual dream. I got my tales of the Z and continued south. Something called to me. A myth? A legend? I could not say. But on my way down, I found it. You would not believe the sight. Aestival, the land of light! It was a place where the sun shone down underneath from the surface, one of the few places where it did. And the sun, it grew such trees, such sights. The place was loaded with bounty, and we filled our coffers with supplies. It was not just that, though. There was an ancient relic there, an ancient wreck. My cannoneer found it and decided to take it with us. She said that this held the key to the special weapon she was making. There was still an egg of a dream that I needed to find, but we found a mark of red science. I know little of red science. However, she seemed so excited it's hard to not feel infectious. The ruins of Aestival also told me that this place was once inhabited. Perhaps it could be again. Could I perhaps make this my own kingdom? A place I might await my father when he returns from the east? Or perhaps a place where I might rival London's glory? On my way down from Aestival, I heard the call of my outcast, the Narcissus one. A giant lorn fluke had appeared on our starboard bow. It was a massive creature of needles and urchins, and it sang a song which drove my men mad and ached on my engines. Nevertheless, with cannon and a swift retreat as we fired, I managed to bring it down and pull its beating heart out. The outcast was overjoyed. This was one of the things that its choral master had been seeking, along with some other trinkets that I had on a whim picked up in Irem. Perhaps my hull would be full of Schlintock soon. Perhaps not. I continued down. It seemed a pity to not explore what I could, since I was this far out to the Z already. I found the Chelinet, a great, unusual place, a city of monster hunters. The sea around it was full of the bones of colossal Z-beasts, countless times larger than my ship. They were like the monsters of Frostbound that I had hidden from. And atop the great Z-beast, the Glory, the dead corpse of some massive, almost turtle-like creature, was the Chelinet. It was unusual to take dock. The surgeon who had joined me, the man I had met in the pubs, the one seeking new corpses, he begged me to let him stay. Though reluctant to leave any of my crew behind, I agreed, and he compensated me with a few secrets, a trinket he'd picked up on his trip, and something of London that no one else knew. Before I could ask him of it, he seemed to vanish. I must admit, it was more than a little unsettling. I passed my time there, taking some of my experience and some of my trophies to a man who could carve stories into them, making them into valuable relics. He actually, after I had gained my story, tasked me with finding the story of the Glory, the great beast on which the Chelinet rests. How did it die, he wondered. He was hoping I might find out. Yet another person who I needed information from, yet another person whose quest I would do. I continued south and immediately wished I had not. The air was thick with gossamer threads. This was the Nativity, the Saviour's Rocks, the place where sorrow spiders dwell. A few tried to drop themselves onto our decks, but I instructed my crew and all of my officers to kill them on sight. I had known of the sorrow spiders for a time. They will burrow into a man's eye and pluck it out, and forever that eye socket will weep in longing. I could not stand the sight. They made my skin crawl. But my fuel was low and my supplies lower. We put into port at the Nativity, and once again, I wish I had not. A haunted doctor ran up to my crew, begging and pleading. The sorrow spiders had taken him, and he wanted away. He needed away. and I noticed that he was missing an eye. He had an eye patch which covered a single hole, and tears dribbling down his cheeks. Whether from pity or simply from a kinship for these hatred creatures, I led him into my ship. Everyone on that island, they crawled with sorrow spiders, over them, around them, in some cases in them. But none would admit to it. It was a horrific sight to behold. I gained what information I could from London and made my way far from the Nativity. I never wanted to return again. There are some things that even a Z captain must say no to. Making quarry, making tea with the great sorrow spiders is one of them. I had no desire for any of that. As if sensing my ire for them, the Tree of Ages lumbered into sight. There is not a sailor alive who has not heard of the tree, but to see it is something unreal. It moved with many segmented limbs underneath the waves of the Z, and it seemed to gaze out at me with massive eyes. It was as if the very whole of the creature was wriggling and squirming, made of those unholy, monstrous spiders. I could not stand the sight of it, and neither could it stand me, for it chased me from the Nativity. But I would not be bested. I had taken the Lorn fluke, and my father had conquered the great mountain nomad. I turned the memento mori and my denunciation upon it. Though the spiders shrieked and crawled and tried to climb into my ship, though they approached me and rammed, though they hurled themselves in their shrieking cries at me, eventually we managed to set the blasted thing ablaze. The sorrow spiders dispersed into the waters. I had no desire to pillage that wretched hull. I turned the memento mori on it again, and watched it burn with satisfaction. Perhaps someday it would return as the sorrow spiders purged themselves and moved together once again, moving as one. I could only feel a creeping terror at the fact that I had destroyed and angered one of the Z's ancient mysteries. But there was more than that. Alongside my haunted doctor, who seemed more than a little ecstatic, there was a grim satisfaction to this conquest. I was done with the sorrow spiders and the Nativity. Perhaps I would have to come by here again for supplies, but never willingly. Never willingly.